Is he a comedian, a buffoon, and a humorist? Or maybe a deep dramatic actor? A carefree, funny man? Or a serious businessman? Our hero today, Ryan Reynolds, is not as simple as it seems at first glance. Behind professional and personal masks lies a multifaceted and creative personality who gave us the opportunity to laugh and cry, as well as the desire to discover him from a new angle every time. This is the Biographer channel, and today we'll talk about how Ryan managed to be at the top of fame without having an acting education. What kind of shooting became a real hell for him? Why did he begin to experience psychological problems after working on Deadpool? And how is his relationship with Hugh Jackman really going? Are you ready? We're starting. Ryan Rodney Reynolds was born on October 23, 1976 in Vancouver, Canada. His parents had nothing to do with acting. His mother, Tammy, worked as a seller. His father, James Chester, was a retired police officer and food wholesaler. The past profession left a huge imprint on the serious and strict James, and the children were afraid of him. The father's strictness influenced the family's way of life. Later, the actor would say that due to the constant tension at home, Ryan had a desire to find a way out of the house and be on his own. In Reynolds' mind, the father-son relationship was supposed to be companionable and supportive, as in the popular story about Butch and Sundance, but the reality was different. From my earliest memory of him, my father was that stereotypical tough guy, but it was just a veneer, he remembered later. The hardest part for me is that he was always kind of a mystery. I just don't feel like I ever had a real conversation with him. Ryan was the youngest in a family where there were 3 other children. Besides him, Terry, Jeff, and Patrick. According to the actor, the brothers grew up friendly and shared everything equally. But the childhood spent with the 3 older brothers was naturally active. My brothers and I spent years trying to kill each other on that lawn, Ryan recalled. The family lived in the Kitsilano area, which was known for its beaches. Therefore, it's not surprising that the actor calls Moraine Lake his favorite place of his homeland. There, he imagined himself as Indiana Jones, dived to the bottom of the lake and collected his treasures, bottles, and various trinkets. Our hero's sense of humor has always helped him cope with the realities of life. He readily laughed at himself and others, leaving himself no opportunity to get upset and others to offend him. I was growing up as a very nervous, sensitive child. Strained like a bare wire, and with my skin I felt the mood, the experiences of other people. Maybe this helped me master the acting profession. When the future star was only 3 years old, he first got into the lens of a camera. A photographer accidentally noticed a cute kid swimming in the pool. The photo was published in an article in one of the local magazines. Years later, Reynolds would marvel at the carelessness of his parents' upbringing. But no matter what, now the actor speaks about his parents with the warmth and wisdom of a man raising 4 children. Now I'm just amazed at how my parents coped with 4 boys, how much wisdom and patience they needed, he said. Of course they were not perfect, but if I grew up in an ideal family, then most likely I did not develop such a sense of humor, and this is an excellent protection against all the troubles in life. In 1982, Ryan enrolled at Kitsilano Secondary School. He studied well, but his acting skills, charisma, and charm gave him away as a future audience favorite. His first test as an actor was a small role in a school play in the 3rd grade. Even then, it became clear to Ryan that he really enjoyed playing on stage. There was also the first confidence in his skills. I knew I could play based on the skill with which I lied to my parents on a regular basis. But his father was not happy with such an idea. In order for him to change his anger to mercy, Reynolds began to actively engage in sports. He chose baseball and football and quickly became the most valuable player. Every match, he literally snatched victory from the hands of competitors. But it wasn't the ambitions of the boy, but a simple and such a sincere desire to get the approval of his dad. Reynolds Sr. was delighted and went to every game, regardless of the weather. When Ryan played, James had to be in the stands and support his son. Later in an interview, Reynolds said that he ruined his health by running after the ball across the field with a concussion and cracked bones, just so as not to disappoint his dad. He fought with the last bit of strength, rather for approval than for victory. In high school, the young man went to work part-time, and he got a job as a delivery boy for the very newspaper that once published his photo, the Vancouver Sun. Years later, Ryan's friends from school would tell him that despite his status, he doesn't have a starve fever and regularly visits former teachers. At the age of 13, Ryan persuaded his parents to take him to a casting call on the Canadian teen soap opera Hillside in the USA. It was called 15. The guy got the role of Billy Simpson, one of the main participants in the daily life of Hillside School. The series, broadcast on American cable television, lasted 2 years. For a beginner, our hero did quite well, and one episode received as much as $150, which was pretty good for a teenager of those years. In memory of this series, the young actor has the Best Young Actor on Cable TV award and the experience of survival on the set. It was then that Ryan finally decided on the profession. Before leaving school, Ryan managed to take part in the series Odyssey and in the feature film Ordinary Magic, where 17-year-old Ryan played an Indian boy named Ganesh who moved to Canada after his father's death. Alas, after that, his filmography was not replenished for a long time. And thank God that it happened. Otherwise, I would have ended up like all these children actors, a drug addict. Reynolds said, "Child actors often end up pretty sad." In 1994, the future actor graduated from high school and entered Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Since his family had no money to pay for his son's education, Ryan worked. He worked as a salesman in a grocery store and as a bartender on yachts and in nightclubs. But creativity was not forgotten. With several friends, he organized a comedy group of improvisation under the unambiguous name Yellow Snow. I just fell in love with everything related to theater. It turned out that I can reveal myself in something that I had never even thought about before. At some point, the young man broke down and left high school to go towards his dream and move to Los Angeles. I was looking at the list of training courses that I could enroll in and realized that there was absolutely nothing in it that would interest me. One Wednesday morning, I packed my things and was on my way to Los Angeles in the evening, Ryan recalled. But there was also a backup plan. Being the son of a policeman, young Reynolds was looking at the future profession of a firefighter and even started preparing for the entrance exams. But he didn't go, all because of a friend who assured the future star that he would not pass. A friend told me that I didn't have a chance because the fire department had a mandate to hire women and visible minorities, the actor recalled. Since I didn't qualify in either category, I decided that I would move to LA and try to make my dream of becoming an actor come true. I think I was also rebelling against my family profession. The first weeks at the Dream Factory, according to the actor, were just awful. The day after his arrival, his old Jeep was hijacked, and Ryan had to sort out the intricate system of public transportation in the city. Ryan's self-esteem was crippled by failures. Everything said that the second Tom Hanks won't come out of me. And yet, over time, small roles began to come to him. In 1993, this was a cameo role in the cult X-Files. After that, our hero was noticed and invited to the full-length film My Name is Kate. The plot tells about the life of a woman with alcohol addiction struggling to cope with her illness and make her family happy and united again. Kevin is her caring and understanding teenage son, and Ryan managed to cope with this role flawlessly.
He's gone. Satisfied?
Critics took the TV movie well. For example, John Ferguson from Radio Times called it a worthy, occasionally sentimental drama. The producers kept paying attention to the cute, smiling guy. Gradually, new roles came into his life. In 1995, the young actor received 3 offers at once, albeit episodic ones. So, in the series The Marshal, he got the role of Rick. In addition, the actor had a short job in the TV series Lonesome Dove, The Outlaw Years. Despite good reviews and ratings from viewers, the series about life in the Wild West lasted only 1 season and ceased to exist. Years later, the actor would write about this experience on Twitter. Lonesome Dove, The Outlaw Years was one of my first jobs back in 1995. It's been a crazy 27 years, and I can't imagine doing it without you, Internet Explorer. The show didn't deserve another season, but you sure did. Despite this, Reynolds was already expected on the set of the film Serving in Silence, the Margareta Kammermeyer story, where partners of the talented newcomer on the set were supposed to be Glenn Close and Judy Davis. The actor once again got an inconspicuous role. The next creative year of the actor was filled with mysticism, though professionally, and all because Ryan agreed to a role in the movie Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He was supposed to play a school heartthrob whom the witch Sabrina, played by Melissa Joan Hart, was trying to fall in love with herself. Reynolds perfectly fit into this story thanks to the spectacular appearance of a classic handsome man at whom all the girls threw themselves.
What I mean is, are we gonna hit the lookout after the fling or what? It's tradition, man.
Seth, I'm really kind of thirsty.
Oh, you know what? Me too. Get me a root beer, would you? You guys thirsty?
Hart later admitted that the chemistry between their characters developed into a real friendship between the young actors. As the actress said, they spent a lot of time on set and she couldn't resist his charisma. On the Studio 10 morning show in 2017, the actress admitted that she was a little in love with Reynolds, and on the set the young people flirted with each other. He was very sweet. I had a boyfriend at the time, but we were smitten and cute, and he was adorable, she said. He was a really, really nice guy. Probably would have been a great boyfriend, and I didn't end up with the other guys, so maybe I should have taken a chance. The couple rode in Vancouver during a break between filming, where the actors showed the young lady of the heart of the surroundings, and on weekends they went to Seattle for music festivals. It's unknown if Ryan was in love with a blonde colleague, but on the last day of work he presented her with a gift, an expensive watch. Melissa kissed him in gratitude. The picture was so loved by the audience that it served as the basis for the series of the same name, which gathered more than 17 million viewers in the future. However, without Reynolds. But he didn't have time to be bored. The young actor expanded his filmography, including new genres. First, there was In Cold Blood, directed by Jonathan Kaplan. A small role in a serious drama helped Ryan break out of the role of the handsome boy from a family film for a short while. Then there was When Friendship Kills, a drama starring Linda Carter, directed by James A. Kuntner, who wished to raise the topic of bulimia in his film. The topic was serious and controversial. Ben Coulson was again the same handsome man with whom the main character is in love. Needless to say, Ryan was perfect for this role. Soon the actor was invited to a new series, The Outer Limits. The story of traveling to other worlds, by the way, was very popular with the audience and lasted on the screens for as many as 7 years. Without Ryan, of course, but he also managed to be noted in a cameo in it.
Did you hear that?
Hear what?
The sound.
It's worth noting that up to the real popularity that fell on the actor in the 2000s, all his roles were similar to one another. Episodes and handsome teenage boys, conquerors of girls' hearts, and again inconspicuous episodes, and mostly TV series. Ryan rushed from role to role, trying to get rid of the type that clung to him with all his might. However, he was again and again invited to all the same roles of handsome men with a wide, white-toothed smile. Even during the filming of the TV series Sabrina, the actor established himself as an excellent comedian with a good sense of humor, and gradually Reynolds, in addition to charisma, was able to show his comedic talents. In 1997, Ryan got the role of Howard in the comedy The Alarmist, directed by Evan Dunsky. Our hero was surrounded by real stars: David Arquette, Stanley Tucci, Kate Capshaw. The young actor had a real comedic role. However, neither critics nor the audience were particularly enthusiastic about the picture. The following year, Reynolds appeared in an episode of the adventure film Tourist Trap, and then he accepted an invitation to star in the American television series Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, where he played Michael Bergen, a medical student. The story of 3 flatmates living in a big city received fairly high marks, despite the obvious borrowing of the idea from Friends. Berg is especially remembered by the audience for his spontaneity, courage, bordering on idiocy, and devotion to his favorite business, medicine.
Everyone knows it, and I should not be deprived of a superior education simply because my poor name grew up on the wrong side of the alphabet.
The project was the first where the actor got one of the main roles. It successfully launched on television with the first episode, which became the most watched pilot on ABC since Spin City. But despite this, the show lasted a relatively short time. Only 4 seasons. It gradually lost the audience. Only half of its original number remained by the end of the 4th season. That's why the show was closed. Despite this, Two Guys and a Girl has become an indicator that Ryan can cope with comedic roles quite well. The actor fondly recalls working on the sitcom and admits that he would love to revive the series. I would do that in a heartbeat. That was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. Truly, I mean it. I loved every second of it. He admitted in an interview with Inverse. Soon, the young man was offered to try his hand at the big screen. However, there were the episodic roles again. In Andrew Fleming's film Dick, he was Chip, a friend of 2 eccentric girls who decided to befriend President Nixon and was plunged into a very dangerous story. In Colette Burson's funny melodrama Coming Soon, he played Henry Lipschitz, a strange guy who became a rock star and revealed to the main character that the secret of a high-quality intimate relationship was love.
It's a new year. Don't you want to kiss somebody for good luck?
I don't believe in that traditional shit. Do you always do what everyone else does?
No.
Both films did not become commercially successful, did not collect huge ratings, but received generally good reviews. A clever, funny slice of alternate history, Dick farcically reimagines the Watergate era and largely succeeds. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes summarized Fleming's project. All in the same 1999, the animated series Family Guy was released, in which Ryan also managed to take part. The series about an atypical American family getting into very strange situations is alive to this day, having a wide fan base. The 2000s brought the young actor many new projects. Mitch Marcus was just filming the zombie comedy Boltneck, and he needed an actor suitable for the role of the risen dead Carl O'Reilly. Ryan got the opportunity to expand his comedy range.
Now, you may very well be able to bring people back from the dead, but you don't have a clue about life. Now, I suggest you let me help you.
What do you want me to do?
I'll pick you up at 5. Be sure to wear your costume.
There's only one fact that talks about the success of the picture. It was immediately released on video. But at the same time, Reynolds does not regret this work, calling it a masterpiece. Immediately after, there was a small role in the film We All Fall Down by Martin Cummins. It was a biographical story of an actor trying to find himself in life after the death of his mother. The Canadian independent drama was the actor's first attempt to find himself somewhere other than comedies and melodramas. The film turned out to be decent and earned good reviews from critics. We All Fall Down is more than just a film about drugs or survival. It is about the ways in which we move through our lives, what we notice and what we don't, and what we are left with when it all falls down. Sarah Hentges wrote about him in a Pop Matters review. Reynolds ended 2000, according to the classics of the genre, with a romantic comedy, of which there will be more and more in his repertoire every year. Jerry O'Connell, Bridget Wilson, and Alyssa Milano appeared with Ryan in the cast of the film Buying the Cow, about how sometimes it's hard to part with a bachelor life. Ryan also joked and played with facial expressions, but the picture was worth watching, at least for the sake of the actor's torso and his unrequited LGBT love.
Good morning, sunshine. Oh, is that for me?
In 2001, director Jeff Probst managed to see in a pretty smiling man a suitable candidate for the role of one of the heroes of his thriller, Finder's Fee. The action of this dark film unfolds over the course of one evening in a small New York apartment. The plot keeps in suspense until the very finale. Despite the fact that the role was very unusual for the classic role of Reynolds, he coped with it with dignity. The film was not released in all countries, but the rating and reviews from critics were impressive. It's a solidly written thriller with an outstanding cast of actors, and it deserves far better. It's far from the most original movie ever made, but it's thoroughly entertaining and appropriately tense, making it well worth a watch. Niall Gray said of it, in addition, the film received the Golden Space Needle Award, awarded by the audience for the best film at the Seattle International Film Festival in 2001. Despite the high praise of those who did get to watch the intense thriller, Finder's Fee was quickly forgotten, and rarely will anyone be able to name it, listing Ryan's merits. But even then, it became clear that an actor could play deeper and more ambiguous roles. In 2001, Reynolds had a role that allowed him to wake up famous. Van Wilder in the comedy National Lampoon's Van Wilder is a playboy who completely forgot that college is not only fun parties, but also studying. One day, the master of good mood, the organizer of the most outrageous parties, remains without the guardianship of his father, and now he needs to forget about the young freshman and enter adulthood.
You think about the future too much, you kind of forget about the present, obviously. And I am really enjoying the present right now, sharing a penalty box and a tri-latte with Gwen Pearson, who believes that censorship reflects society's lack of confidence in itself.
National Lampoon's Van Wilder is a classic teen comedy resembling American Pie, overflowing with ambiguous and frankly vulgar jokes. Ryan is in his element in all this fun, and the viewer believes this sincerity. Critics rated the director's work extremely negatively, and on the review aggregator site it earned an average of 2 out of 10 points. However, the film received very good reviews from the audience and is still considered one of the best American youth comedies. No wonder, because the main college beauty is played by Tara Reid, one of the main subjects of adoration of teenagers of the 2000s. As a result of Reynolds' collaboration with Tara Reid and Kal Penn, the story of carefree student life was known all over the world, and the pictures itself collected about $40 million. And from which movie did you get to know Ryan Reynolds as an actor? Write in the comments. The comedy attracted attention to the young actor, and even more offers began to arrive to our hero after the National Lampoon's Van Wilder. I had a blast making that movie. I feel like it opened a lot of doors for me, Ryan said about this project. And it really was. The iconic role became a stepping stone to the formation of the image of Reynolds as we know him. Sarcastic, smutty, but cordial. He was still offered cameo roles, but now it's, for example, an episode of the famous TV series about hospital life Scrubs, where the actor played the role of Spence, a former classmate of the main characters.
Spence here got me through a lot of hard times.
Why don't you just moose the crap out of it? Straight up.
Yes! My life changed that day.
The next few years were spent in an actor's career under the auspices of the comedy drama. In 2003, viewers had the opportunity to watch the family film School of Life by William Deere. This is a film about the struggle of two opposite teachers for the title of Teacher of the Year. Ryan plays a progressive school teacher, Mr. D. He's funny, smart, and always makes jokes on time. But despite the external comicality of the picture, some critics noted this role of the actor as one of his most powerful dramatic images, and the work itself is a worthy gem of his film career. The aspiring star won the Young Hollywood Awards as the most promising young actor for it, and the School of Life became very popular in its genre. In William Phillips' crime comedy Foolproof, Ryan once again played the main character Kevin, a master of technical protection methods who, with his friends, developed perfectly thought-out robbery plans. They did it just for fun, without crossing the line of the law. Everything changed when a crime boss, played by the legendary David Suchet, got in their way.
I believe this is yours. It's an impressive read, bold yet meticulous strategies. I love the one where you try to figure out how to pinch the Stanley Cup. It's very Canadian. Don't worry, I skipped the more personal entries.
Despite the weak box office, the film received a lot of rave reviews for its non-standard plot, acting, and sense of humor. And of course, there were some cameo roles. The actor was happy to play a nurse in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, and another small role in the comedy thriller The In-Laws. Around the same time, the actor was spotted with the famous Canadian singer Alanis Morissette. Little was known about the actor's personal life. Ryan tried to hide his affairs in every possible way. Alanis became the young actor's first public beloved. They met at a Drew Barrymore party, and the young people had a lot in common. The lovers traveled a lot and supported each other in their careers. In 2004, the couple announced their engagement, and everything seemed to be going very well. But in 2007, they came to the conclusion that it was much better to be apart than together for them. The reasons for the breakup were unknown, but the newspapers wrote that Alanis had a harder and longer time coping with the breakup, and Ryan threw himself into his work. And soon his first recognition was waiting for him. In 2003, the actor was awarded the MTV Award in the nomination Breakthrough of the Year for National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Gradually, the nature of the roles played by the actor became more complicated. New genres, interesting images, and unusual plot twists were added to his filmography. In 2004, Ryan appeared in the third part of the sensational Blade saga at that time in the role of Hannibal King, the leader of the vampire hunters. Ryan had to gain about 22 pounds of muscle to participate in the film. In addition, he trained and studied Brazilian martial arts for several months. According to the actor, he drew inspiration from Indiana Jones for the role of Hannibal. He's a guy that's capable in almost any scenario, however, sometimes isn't really polished looking, which is what I like, which is what kind of imbues realism to it and reality in those moments. He explained. The work on the film was not very fun, and later the screenwriter and director of the filming, David Goyer, would call them painful. He told The Hollywood Reporter he didn't think anyone working on Blade Trinity had a good time, and didn't deny rumors from Patton Oswalt that Snipes tried to strangle him. The relationship between the two main actors, Snipes and Reynolds, did not work out either. Years later, the Deadpool star would humorously comment on this period, admitting that they did not get along. In an interview with IGN, Reynolds said he had the utmost respect for Snipes and his commitment to method acting, though also admitted he ended up joking with the Blade star in an attempt to get him to break character. He called himself the complete opposite of Snipes, indicating that he had never actually met Wesley himself. He had only met Blade. Snipes was so immersed in the role that it was extremely difficult for colleagues to communicate on an ordinary human level. There's a moment in the movie where I look up at Jessica and I swear to God I didn't even know the cameras were rolling anymore, and I say,
"He hates me, doesn't he?"
Yeah.
The film was supposed to be a bright blockbuster, but alas, it failed miserably. The audience had already lost the essence of the narrative and the charm of the fighter against evil spirits by the third part, and therefore left hundreds of thousands of negative reviews. Despite all the troubles, the actor admitted that he grew up a lot while working on the action movie, and he discovered new horizons in the profession. In 2005, Ryan decided to try his hand at a new genre, horror. He played one of the main roles in the film The Amityville Horror by Andrew Douglas. It's the story of how a family moves into a new house and discovers that besides them, something else terrible and inexplicable lives there. Despite the fact that the film took first place at the box office immediately after its release and also earned $108 million, critics reacted extremely negatively about the horror film. It was called banal and predictable, and the visual effects were not impressive enough. Serious Reynolds didn't particularly impress the audience either. The actor did not forget about his vocation. He was also invited to star in passing comedy films. In the same year, the film Just Friends by Roger Kumble was released, where he got the role of music producer Chris Brander trying to win the favor of his girlfriend from his youth, played by Amy Smart. For the role of the impressive size of the main character, the actor had to spend 4 hours in the makeup chair while a face weighing about 11 pounds was applied to him. Despite Reynolds' best efforts, the film received mixed reviews. Almost everything was criticized. A weak romantic line, banal humor, and plot. Only Ryan wasn't criticized. Soon, another comedy was released on the screens, Waiting by Rob McKittrick, won even less love from the audience. The story tells about the backstage of the cafeteria, where the personal experiences of the main characters are served in comical and sometimes embarrassing situations. In the film, Ryan plays a waiter named Monty who knows how to take revenge on a guest who did not leave a tip.
How do you make $100 every night?
You want to know?
Yeah.
You really want to know how I make $100 every night?
Yes.
It's all about that right there.
Did you remember to subscribe to the channel so as to not miss new interesting videos? Click on the bell and the subscribe button. Since the mid-2000s, Reynolds' repertoire has become more complicated. The director saw in him not only the hero of an endless number of comedy melodramas, the actor himself was diligently trying to get rid of the obsessive role. In 2006, the psychological thriller The Nines was released, and a year later, the action movie Smokin' Aces by Joe Carnahan came out. The Nines is divided into 3 parts where the actor has different roles, which he copes with perfectly. Whether it's a spree TV actor, a preem, emotionally strained director, or a successful and slightly blessed video game designer, Ryan admitted that he immediately liked the script, and the actor offered a meeting to the director. I think half of the casting process these days is a matter of finding somebody as excited about a project as you are, so I think John could see my enthusiasm and how into this thing I was, and I think he felt maybe I had a similar idea as to what it was all about. We had similar notions on it. The next thing I knew, I was shooting a movie. John August's debut work received many good reviews. The budget indie project was called quite witty, exciting, and intriguing. August's film is one of the most fascinating and potentially infuriating of the year. Love it or hate it, it's not there to be ignored. William Thomas wrote his impression in Empire. There were also those who did not fully understand and did not appreciate the work. Despite this, the actor admitted that it was a lot of fun to make jokes about the underside of Hollywood. I was into that one. All 3 of them I love. They are all aspects of myself as well. He explained. Joe Carnahan's project Smokin' Aces has taken its rightful place in Ryan's filmography. Here, he played the role of FBI Special Agent Richard Messner, who was tasked with protecting Jeremy Piven's character from death. The actor himself got his role by accident. He initially auditioned for another role, one of the Trimmer brothers who were insane neo-Nazis, but apparently the director saw something more in him. According to Ryan, the filming process was no less intense and rapid than the film itself ended up being. That really did translate onto the screen. With all those personalities, it felt like a shitstorm. It took time to find the kindest face and roll my face and just dig in. It's on the screen, that's for sure. No, melodramas will continue to be on Reynolds' list of roles. There were Chaos Theory, Fireflies in the Garden, Adventureland, Paperman, The Proposal. In them, the actor will have the opportunity to work with such stars as Julia Roberts, Willem Dafoe, Kristen Stewart, Lisa Kudrow, and others, and also to reveal his dramatic sides. In the 2007 family melodrama Definitely Maybe, Ryan stars in the role of the divorced father of a 10-year-old girl to whom he tells his heartfelt stories of his youth.
Great. Sounds good. You ready?
No.
No. Take your time.
I will.
I know you will. Princess Pillow?
Thank you.
You bet.
The film was warmly received by the audience. An unusual script, good directing, convincing acting. This is an incomplete list for which the picture was praise. Reynolds played his character deeply, subtly conveying all the experiences and life story of Will Hayes on the way to his own happiness. Reynolds can play really goofy characters, but he also knows how to channel that into romantic lead charm. He's sweet when necessary and has more of an imperfect leading man quality than ultra-suave romantic leads. This makes him more of a realistic romance hero. Jerrica Tisdale wrote about him in a Yahoo Entertainment review. But most of the comedies of this period in which Ryan starred were classics of the genre, an exemplary story about what a movie for a one-time watch should be. You can't call them bad, but you can't call them masterpieces either. And the actor in each of them looks like the perfect main character who gets into a funny love story, or the main character's man who got into a funny love story. Choose what is more suitable. But the more monotonous, similar movies in Ryan's filmography, the clearer it became to him that there was a difference between types of comedies, and he wanted something else. More bold, maybe even authorial. Reynolds' personal love story also developed in parallel. In 2008, the actor suddenly married a colleague in his fields, the beautiful Scarlett Johansson. The couple met back in 2007 and a stormy, impetuous romance broke out between them. It was initially carefully hidden from the press, but thanks to the ubiquitous paparazzi, the actors were photographed holding hands sweetly. That's why Ryan and Scarlett were made to publicly acknowledge the friendship. They said Reynolds proposed to his beloved romantically and in a home-like atmosphere. He presented her with a diamond ring during breakfast, but they didn't live together for long, just 2 years. In the first year, everything went well. The couple bought a house in Melrose, spent a lot of time together, and traveled around Europe. But after a while, there was tension between them. Journalists and sources close to the family said that the reason was Scarlett's brilliant career and Ryan's questionable creative development. The press concluded that Reynolds was jealous of a more successful wife and couldn't stand the competition. In addition, the mismatched schedules and the actor's constant workload did not play into their hands. It's hard to say how it really was, but Johansson filed for divorce and soon she was spotted with another man, Sean Penn. Reynolds again went headlong into work. The actor's next project was a way to express himself and surprise the audience, and it worked out. In the drama Buried, directed by Rodrigo Cortés, Ryan finally managed to fully reveal his dramatic talent. He proved that he could not only amuse, but also put the viewer into a state of deep shock and even despair. Paul Conroy, Reynolds' hero, goes to Iraq to serve under contract. He wants to earn money for his family, but something is not going according to plan. Paul loses consciousness and, waking up, finds himself in a boarded-up coffin underground. Then you'll find an hour and a half of the same decorations in the form of a coffin, and the main character who has only a lighter and a mobile phone at his disposal. They are the only helpers in the hope of survival. Despite the potential of the project, the actor had a hard time filming. Almost the entire film was shot from a single take, except for those moments when he lost consciousness. The thing I wasn't ready for or realized when I was shooting is when you're out of breath and you're not moving to accommodate the increased oxygen in your blood, you pass out. He admitted in an interview. In addition, Ryan burned his fingers with the lighter he was using in the movie. There was one sequence in the movie where I had a paper bag and I would breathe into this paper bag as much as possible before the take. And then when I came to, somewhere in the middle of the take, I would grab it, breathe, we'd wait for a beat, and then keep going. In order to convey all the possible dynamics of the plot in a limited space, as many as 7 versions of the same coffin were built. The most popular and universal was one of them called Joker, which was used for most camera angles. During the 17 hours during which the shooting took place, Ryan constantly hit his head and other parts of his body, getting bruises. The work on the picture was carried out in chronological order of the plot development. Therefore, it's quite possible that the actor experienced the despair of the main character in reality. As director Rodrigo Cortés explains, Ryan Reynolds committed to living the situation rather than acting it out, which may have been more taxing on his body and mind, but ultimately helped build the tension and the atmosphere of the movie. But he never complained, even about the sand. We threw at him tons of sand, and it wasn't just the sand, which is scratchy and grazed his skin, but also the dust. He coughed dust. He blinked dust. It was very, very tough for him, because it's a very, very tough role. Why did he agree to such a role? The actor called the decision superficial and not fully considered. The script just reminded him of the Alfred Hitchcock works. The film provoked a very mixed reaction from critics. On the one hand, the picture was called a masterpiece, the equal of which has not yet been filmed and is unlikely to be filmed. On the other hand, the lack of dynamics and the obvious presence of incipient claustrophobia alienated the faint-hearted and action lovers. Some moments of the film make it not just creepy, but actually bad. Ryan played his character so vividly and sincerely. Reynolds proved so good and buried that you can't help but wonder what would have happened if movies like this had defined his career. Lisa Lamont wrote in a review for Collider. The actor coped with this role brilliantly and even received several awards: MTV Movie and TV Awards, the Goya Award, and the Saturn Award. However, it didn't end only with rewards. Ryan got insomnia and PTSD as a bonus. He got so used to the role and gave himself up to the filming process. Every night I couldn't fall asleep. I returned home with the feeling that I was suffering from some strange form of PTSD, if, of course, this applies to filming. In short, I could not get myself together. It was really difficult. After Barcelona, I still could not come to my senses for some time. Ryan alternated such serious and energy-consuming roles with something easier and simpler. Still remembering his role as a funny guy, the actor's filmography is full of films of various genres. Dramas, action films, thrillers, and of course comedies, but they became less formulaic over time, and their share in the total number of roles was getting smaller every year. These works received their portion of audience love and restrained indifference from critics. For example, The Change-Up, released in 2011, was about how a bachelor and a family man switch places. In the comedy, Ryan got a familiar role, a charming bachelor and a heartthrob with a provocative sense of humor. But neither the critics nor the audience understood the picture. It barely paid off the cost of production, earning $75 million. Aggregator sites rated the picture barely 4 out of 10. The British newspaper, The Telegraph, named The Change-Up one of the 10 worst films of 2011, stating, "Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman have skill, charm, timing, everything, but the right script." Soon, the actor tried his hand at the dark action movie Safe House, which told about a young CIA agent, Matt Weston, seeking justice for his former partner. Ryan was lucky enough to play with Denzel Washington there. This project was considered a kind of milestone in the career of the actor, who was predicted to become the second Adam Sandler, the eternal comedian.
I lied to you about everything: the NGO, Parker, my job, my family.
Despite the active preparation of the actor for filming and driving training for 2 months, it was not without troubles. Reynolds calls Washington one of his colleagues in his personal top. Therefore, it was important to him that everything went smoothly, and maybe it would have been like that if there hadn't been a scene with extreme driving. So firstly, you have to know that I was shocked at the level of driving that they let me do on this movie, Ryan recalled. With today's level of safety standards, I don't think they'd let you do half of that stuff now. 3 days into filming Safe House, Reynolds relays he was behind the wheel and Washington, who was playing an international criminal, had cut his way out of the boot and was strangling him. "So we're all over the road," the actor said about that situation. "And we're spinning out of control. If I'm honest, it really was pretty out of control. And I end up clocking Denzel in his eye. I froze, but his first question wasn't as I suspected. How do I turn this young man into a liquid? But rather, how do we continue to shoot with my face like this?" Therefore, the actor had to correct the situation and beat his idol a second time, in the other eye. Putting Denzel Washington's face in danger is what Reynolds calls the most dangerous moment of his career. The picture received a lot of praise, and Reynolds' work did not go unnoticed. A year later, the actor returned to the screens with a gun, this time in the fantasy R.I.P.D., Rest in Peace department. The film pleased with an unusual plot. Reynolds played a policeman who was killed by a criminal and fell into the afterlife. There, his hero was again offered a job on the side of justice. The star's company for afterlife adventures was Jeff Bridges. But despite the talented main characters, the film failed miserably at the box office. Viewers called it terrible and disappointing, and on the aggregator's site, RIPD had barely 1 point. The film was included in the box office bomb, grossing $78 million on a $130 million budget. After a while, the actor admitted failure. I'll be the first to admit I have not been as wise with my decision-making as I should have been. I wasn't really methodical about, what is this movie? What are we making here? It was more like, whoa, cool, Jeff Bridges, and there's some jokes in there that really work for me. Interestingly, years later in 2023, the failed picture will become #1 in the United States on Netflix. Maybe it's not that bad. But let's go back to 2012. In the same year, the actor once again tried himself in a dramatic role. This time, it was the thriller The Captive, which told about a father who did not want to believe in his daughter's death and was looking for evidence to the contrary. Not only searching, but also finding. Despite the good potential, the movie was a failure. The project by Canadian director Adam Egoyan had a limited release and was met with skepticism by the public. The film earned 3 out of 10 points on aggregator sites. The website's critics' consensus reads, "Wan and lugubrious, The Captive represents another atmospheric, beautifully filmed misfire from director Adam Egoyan." But not all critics were so categorical in their assessment. Scout Tafoya not only praised the eclectic director's work, but also Reynolds' performance, calling it wonderful. But the MVP is Ryan Reynolds. Being able to convincingly portray someone who has never allowed himself to express emotion is no mean feat, and it's during that phone call that the depth of his achievement becomes clear. Guilt, fear, sadness, anger, and helplessness rush into his eyes and threaten to spill out, but something keeps them at bay. He wrote, "Despite the failures, the actor did not stop, and already in 2014 he presented 2 films to the audience designated as comedies, but extremely unusual. Reynolds clearly chose roles to his liking that responded to his creative interest without chasing budgets and big names. The voices of Marjani Satrapi can hardly be called comedy despite what is indicated in its description. Horror with thriller elements revealed the actor from an unexpected side. He played the role of psychopath Jerry Hickfang talking with his pets.
I was just excited. I was excited to be a part of it. I chased the hell out of it. I went after the role and basically begged Marjan to put me in the film.
The role was not easy because Ryan should have played a character with a dissociative identity disorder and symptoms of schizophrenia. In addition to his main role, the actor on his own initiative voiced animals which were supposed to be a manifestation of his character's inner dialogue. Despite the fact that the plot of the picture was dubbed absurd by some, such an unusual way of illustrating the inner world of a maniac was definitely noticed. The Voices received many positive reviews for its depth and psychological onslaught, for its humor and symbolism. The actor was also praised. He was able to convincingly and amusingly play all the shades of the serial killer's experiences, a murderer who was so desperate for joy and friends. However, there was an unpleasant moment. Ryan, as a real dog person, was never able to make friends with his red-haired co-star, the cat. As a result of their collaboration, the actor got a lot of scratches.
And these invisible little cuts that just pour blood, it was utterly crazy. So the cat, it just hated me. And I gotta say that by the end, the feeling was pretty mutual.
No less positive impressions were made by the dramatic comedy Mississippi Grind by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. There, Ryan was a young gambler who, with his partner, played by Ben Mendelsohn, was looking for success. The film, about friendship, life values, and the ability to stop at the right moment, found a response from film critics. It is called one of the most mature dramas in the filmography of an actor who was able to reveal his character gradually, step by step. And at the same time, he doesn't lose his star attractiveness and charisma. Known for his ability to deliver one-liners, Reynolds is equally effective wordlessly playing an ambiguous moment, Collider wrote about him. He demonstrates his range as a performer just as Curtis matures as a character, even through his subtle reactions. I think that Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden tackled the subject matter uniquely and sensitively. It's definitely not your run-of-the-mill Hollywood movie, and the theme may not appeal to everyone, but as a niche movie, it deserves more fans. The film reviewer Film Threat wrote, "The actor himself was very pleased with his work.
There were just these really interesting fractured guys that came together one day, and I just bought every second of it, and I just loved it. And then obviously notwithstanding is the incredible talents behind the camera, which is Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck.
Despite this, the film was only able to collect only $130,000 at the box office, and it remained niche. The British drama Woman in Gold, starring Helen Mirren and Reynolds, became the same niche work. The story is based on real events and tells about Maria Altman's struggle against the whole state for the legacy of her ancestors. Reynolds got the role of an ambitious young lawyer who helps a woman achieve justice. The film received mixed reviews and an average score of 5 out of 10 on the aggregator website. The site's critical consensus reads, "Woman in Gold benefits from its talented leads, but strong work from Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds isn't enough to overpower a disappointingly dull treatment of a fascinating true story." And everything would have continued like this. Funny seriously, if comic book heroes hadn't entered the career of Ryan Reynolds. The idea of becoming a superhero mercenary with a specific sense of humor came to Reynolds while working on another project. The actor first met Deadpool during the filming of Blade Trinity, when one of the main managers of a rival studio saw him in the image of a talkative antihero. He told the actor that if a film about Deadpool was ever made, then Reynolds was the most suitable for this role. The same executive director sent Reynolds several Deadpool comics. When the Canadian actor read his first issue, he fell in love with the character. And he also noticed that the comic book hero not only knew about Ryan, but also referred to him. In the comic Cable and Deadpool #2, which was released in 2004, the superhero did mention the actor. The first issue I opened up, I'm not making this up, I was on the panel. Like in the comic, it said Deadpool was saying, "I look like a cross between Ryan Reynolds and a Shar-Pei." And I was thinking, Jesus, this is f***ing destiny. Since that time, the actor has been trying to make a film about Deadpool. The development was first handled by the New Line Cinema studio, and David S. Goyer was appointed director. But due to a lack of rights to other characters, the project was closed, and the rights to Deadpool were sold to 20th Century Fox Studios. 8 years later, he still got the role of Deadpool, although it was a cameo in the X-Men Origins Wolverine. According to the studio's idea, the film was supposed to introduce the viewer to a funny killer and become a kind of introduction to a full-fledged film. In general, the actor's first attempts to prove himself on the screen as a superhero were extremely unsuccessful. In this film, the chatterbox and the foul-mouthed Deadpool was shown to the audience quite superficially. The screenwriters completely castrated his role. Wilson was deprived of his main need, to joke and chat incessantly. They actually sewed up his mouth, and the mercenary spent the whole grandiose fight with Wolverine and Sabretooth in silence.
Is that you? Your striker finally figured out how to shut you up.
In addition, Reynolds played only a small part in the film, and the lion's share was performed by another actor, a stuntman. Ryan's objections to the way his character was presented were answered. If you want to play Deadpool, this is your chance to introduce him, and if you don't want to introduce him in this fashion, we'll have someone else play him. The film turned out to be a failure and received a lot of criticism for poor special effects and an ill-conceived script with dialogues. This convinced Ryan that he needed to make a separate film with his character, revealing him in an R-rated movie. He dreamed of rehabilitating the mercenary in front of comic book fans and making a really cool, funny movie about him in his own style. A few days after the premiere of X-Men, the actor promised to make a solo film about Deadpool which will be much more faithful to the original character. To do this, he teamed up with screenwriters Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who achieved success with Zombieland, to write the script in early 2010. And in 2011, he hired Tim Miller as director. The solo movie was already on his way to production when another superhero movie, Green Lantern, got in his way. Why did Reynolds turn off the intended path? The actor agreed to temporarily turn his coat from Marvel to DC, believing that the story has great potential. This decision was made after the studio once again refused to let Ryan work on Deadpool. And they said, "Unfortunately, we can't greenlight that movie, and I don't think it's ever going to get greenlit." The actor recalled later, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go move on with my life then, I guess. His character, Hal Jordan, is a witty test pilot who, by the will of fate, found himself involved in saving the world. A classic for this kind of movie. The actor was in a fighting mood and kept repeating that Green Lantern was not just another superhero movie. As a result, the film became one of the most high-profile failures in the history of superhero cinema. Such hopes were placed on him that Warner Bros. Planned to make him the first part of the franchise and compete with Marvel, but the hopes were not fulfilled. Initially, the picture fell into production hell due to the studio's constant interference in the filming process. In addition, the script was weak, cliched, and besides, they didn't allow the main actor to fully express himself. Reynolds' character turned out to be not serious enough or not comical enough to stand out and win over the audience in some way.
Hey! My face is just getting warmed up.
To make matters worse, Campbell's first and only choice for the lead role was Bradley Cooper, but the studio insisted that Reynolds play the main character, which led to endless conflicts between the director and the actor. Reynolds went through hell on set. In addition to the quarrels with Campbell, he was also injured. Then there were creative disagreements, large-scale reshoots, and bad special effects, which were completed in a hurry due to a busy schedule. According to some reports, at the last minute, the studio took the material from the director and finished editing without him. The fact that Marvel released Thor 2 months earlier made matters worse. That not only took all the attention to itself, but also made fans compare one film with another. And this comparison was not good for the Green Lantern, because in Thor, everything was better, from the storyline to the main villain. As a result, neither the audience, nor the critics, nor the creators themselves liked Green Lantern. After the release of the film, the director admitted that he saw his guilt in the failure of the film. The superhero theme was not close to him, and he regretted that he took it up at all. When Ryan was later asked how it happened, why he did not immediately realize that the film was a failure, he replied, "With Green Lantern, I don't think anyone ever figured out exactly what it was. That isn't to say that hundreds of men and women didn't work their fingers to the bone to make it as good as possible. It also fell victim to the process in Hollywood, which is like poster first, release date second, script last." The actor despised his participation in the film so much that he later even ridiculed it in the scene after the credits of Deadpool 2. Reynolds treated the failure with humor, and for a long time, whenever possible, joked about this terrible experience. However, there was something still good about Green Lantern. Blake Lively. According to the plot, the characters of Ryan and Blake were romantically linked, but in life, everything was different. Blake was dating Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ryan hoped to establish a relationship with Johansson. According to the actors, they were friends and supported each other. Moreover, they went on double dates with other partners. But soon after the premiere of the superhero blockbuster, everything changed. Pictures of the newly minted couple appeared in the press, although the actors denied the fact of any relationship except for friendly ones. Fans assumed that their relationship was just a marketing ploy before the release of the film, but on September 9th, 2012, the lovers secretly got married. The wedding took place in a close circle of family and friends. Journalists tried all sorts of tricks to find out at least something from that day, but they did not succeed. We know only a few small facts from the Reynolds and Lively ceremony. So the couple made unconventional vows and promised to make each other laugh for the rest of their lives. And in an interview, Blake admitted that she was very upset about the sparkler-burned dress, but Ryan quickly cheered her up, saying that this way the wedding outfit only became more memorable. Since both actors come from large families, soon there was a replenishment in the family. In December 2014, their daughter James was born. In 2016, daughter Enos was born, and in 2019, the third girl, Betty. In 2023, the couple's fourth child was born, but at the moment, neither the sex nor the baby's name is known. The spouses carefully hide the details of their personal lives throughout the history of their relationship, and the birth of a couple's children is usually a big surprise. So it was with the second daughter of the actors, whose birth was carefully hushed up. Reynolds himself accidentally, or not, blurted out on Twitter, "The mobile above my daughter's crib is just a whole bunch of Nuva rings, so she remembers how lucky she is." There was a similar story at Betty's birth. Blake's pregnancy was hidden, and information about the baby's birth appeared months after her birth. When the actor became a guest on the Today TV show, he was asked what the girl's name was. Reynolds answered in his own way, "We're going to be original, and all the letters in her name are silent. I want to give her something to push against in life." The secret was declassified by Taylor Swift, who added a song called Betty to the new album. The text mentioned the names of the actor's first two daughters, so the listeners decided that the track was called Betty for a reason. Indeed, Ryan and Blake soon confirmed that the third daughter was named that way. As for the gender and name of the fourth child, nothing's known at the moment. There are suggestions that Lively gave birth to a baby sometime between February 3rd and February 12th, 2023. According to Ryan, he and his wife try to share childcare responsibilities equally. The father looks after his daughters while the mother's busy filming, and vice versa. And the secret of Reynolds' family happiness is simple. You need to be able to be friends, not depart for a long time, and not forget to make fun of each other. The actor's ironic Twitter posts instantly turn into aphorisms, are translated into different languages, and quoted by fans. The actor leads his own social networks and jokes a lot about fatherhood and married life. Being a father is the single greatest feeling on earth, not including those wonderful years I spent without a child, of course. But let's go back to the 2010s. All this time, the actor did not give up the dream of making a comic book about Deadpool. He wrote letters to the management of the Fox company, trying to solicit funds for the adaptation of a full-fledged film about a crazy mercenary. But they did not give up immediately. Yes, they were interested in a spin-off, but they were not ready to bring it to life yet. Reynolds was no longer their favorite after the failure of Green Lantern, and the scenario that was brought to them for negotiations had nothing to do with the company's usual PG-13 rating. That meant there was a risk of serious financial losses. The commercial and critical failure of the previous film cast doubt on the studio's confidence that Ryan would be able to headline their next major film. And after the success of The Avengers, Fox began to insist that Deadpool become a team film instead of a solo one and be rewritten.
I think we can all agree that shit just went sideways in the most colossal way. Well, maybe not the most.
So the project was postponed for the next 3 years, until the first test footage of the development of the film adaptation was leaked to the network in July 2014, and Deadpool fans began a campaign in support of the film. As a result, Fox gave up and gave the project the green light in 2016, but with a budget much smaller than that of a standard superhero movie. Ryan himself was actively involved in writing the script, although this is not indicated in the credits. He even overdid it in the gym, preparing for the role. Because of this, the costume designers had to remove a special lining from Deadpool's costume, which made the hero pumped up. Interestingly, Deadpool's costume had a specific texture. It became dirty very quickly, while visually the costume remained clean. As soon as an actor in a suit went out into the sun, the fabric turned bright red. When the light was dimmed, it turned blue. Graphic artists spent a lot of hours emphasizing this effect in the shot. Reynolds had to spend most of his time wearing a mask that completely covered his entire face. However, Deadpool needed facial expressions, and again, the pros got down to business. Even in a mask, the hero had a characteristic facial expression. Graphic artists generally had a hard time during the creation of Deadpool. For example, they were seriously asked to draw the genitals between the legs of the character.
I'd say that you sound like an infomercial, but not a good one, like Slap Chop, more shake-weighty.
You won't believe it, but concept art was drawn, which was approved by the director, producers, and the performer of the main role. The artists worked on Deadpool's genitals, as well as any other graphic object, with all seriousness. Deadpool became the first film in the X-Men franchise to be R-rated. There were so many professionals who knew their job inside and out behind the funny, bloody, spectacular, and, at times, frankly thrash story that the film simply could not turn out to be a bad one. The team, led by Tim Miller, was able to create a colorful film on a limited budget. They did it largely due to the non-linear narrative and the cutting of some scenes, such as a motorcycle chase on the freeway. It increased the intensity and dynamism of the plot, but the movie only benefited from this. Ryan has said many times in interviews that Deadpool chose him for the film adaptation, and fans have found a lot of similarities between the character and Reynolds. So, both have alliteration hidden in their names, Ryan Rodney Reynolds and Wade Winston Wilson. They have the same height, eye color, and Ryan played the first role in 1991. At the same time, the first edition of Deadpool Comics was released. It's been a blast getting away from the traditional concept of the leading man, which is not something I've been really that great at, to be totally blunt. Reynolds says, "When I started in this business, my highest goal was to be the wacky neighbor on a sitcom. My career took a much different path, and I've managed to find projects that give me a chance to play characters that are much truer to who I am in my own sensibility." The studio, together with Reynolds, conducted a large-scale and ingenious advertising campaign before the start of the screening of the film. The destruction of the fourth wall of the character, as well as many interesting and provocative techniques, were used to increase the interest of a potential viewer. In addition, a video was shot where Deadpool played pranks on children and asked them inappropriate questions during Halloween. On the eve of the new year, the 12 Days of Deadpool campaign was launched, during which various new content about the film was shown on different news channels. So on the first day, a poster was published that vividly represented all the positive aspects of the character. And before Valentine's Day, the movie was advertised as a romantic comedy under the slogan, "True Love Never Dies." In addition, a commercial was shot about the right ways to detect testicular cancer. But that's not all. Ryan started a fake feud with Hugh Jackman, which was a direct reference to the relationship between Deadpool and Wolverine. That, of course, was supported through social media and caused a lot of noise. And it worked. This approach looked sincere, fresh, and reflected the actor's passionate commitment to his character. Thanks to the actor's efforts, Deadpool turned out to be very similar to the comic book version. The same marginal, devoid of any moral principles, foul-mouthed, charming the audience from the very first seconds. But the work on the film was so intense that it affected the actor's mental health. I felt like I was on some schooner in the middle of a white squall the whole time. It just never stopped. When it finally ended, I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown. I literally had the shakes. I went to go see a doctor because I felt like I was suffering from a neurological problem or something. And every doctor I saw had said, "You have anxiety." The audience and critics took the picture just great. Deadpool was a box office success, earning $782 million. Reynolds fully rehabilitated himself in the comic book community after the boring Green Lantern. MTV paid close attention to the film and presented it with awards for Best Fight and Best Comedy Role. Critics also fully appreciated the film. So Michael Curtley wrote in his review, "The element that makes Deadpool work so well above all else, however, is Ryan Reynolds. For whatever reason Reynolds felt drawn to this character back in 2004, his performance represents the perfect symbiosis of actor and character. I can't imagine anyone else playing this role." Unfortunately, the Golden Globe could not be won, but the actor was pleased with the approval and support of Deadpool fans. In the same 2016, Ryan Reynolds received a named star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This was a special moment in his acting career. He was finally recognized and truly loved. And it's especially symbolic that his favorite comic book hero brought him real fame, who looks so much like him and does not look at all like those handsome men from romantic comedies in which Ryan had to play. Despite all the successes, the actor admits that fame does not bother him much. Perhaps, Ryan says, it's all about Canadian ancestry. "I found that I was less driven and not as worried by success or failure. I think Canadians are generally more polite and self-effacing, and that kind of attitude made it easier for me to adjust to things," he said. Ryan does not take himself too seriously and always speaks ironically enough about himself, constantly making fun of not only others, but also of himself. He's sure that he and Deadpool have found each other in this. There was a lot about his sense of humor and way of looking at things from the comic book that I related to. He doesn't take himself seriously, and I've never been someone to take myself seriously either. That's been a side of me that I think has come through in many of the characters. But Reynolds is always very responsible about his work. The actor is known for his hard work and commitment to schedule. He tries his best for his roles, and it's not just the gym. Reynolds has overcome his fears of heights and confined spaces, but he never fell in love with the gym. "I do get bored of the gym," the actor said. "I enjoy the discipline of it, chasing yourself and becoming better than you were before, but I'm not one of those guys who counts calories all day. My main problem on a movie is actually remembering to eat." Of course, the picture had a sequel. A year later, the audience was laughing at the character's tricks in Deadpool No Good Deed. And soon, Deadpool 2, Once Upon a Deadpool, and various teaser videos between the first and second parts followed. There, the beloved comic book hero still makes jokes, plans a menu in the lair of the X-Men, and teaches fans the secrets of drawing.
All right, I'm gonna whack off again. That's right. That feels good.
And how many parts of the black comedy about a funny mercenary have you watched? Write in the comments. After the success of Deadpool, 2 films starring Ryan were released in 2017. The first was the comedy thriller The Hitman's Bodyguard. Our hero played the role of Michael, a super professional bodyguard assigned to the coolest hitman whom almost every second dreams of killing. The duet of Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson turned out to be very memorable, and this despite the fact that the story was originally a drama and the script underwent a crazy 2-week reworking to become a comedy action movie. Reynolds played a deteriorated version of Deadpool, and Jackson played Samuel L. Jackson as a result. Ryan agreed to participate in the picture only because he had long wanted to play with Jackson. They had met 12 years earlier, going through physical therapy together after not very successful stunts on set. Reynolds was recovering from working on Blade Trinity at the time. Subsequently, Samuel not only liked Reynolds himself, but also his work in Deadpool. "I knew his job. I knew he worked, and I'd seen enough of it," Jackson said. "I knew that I enjoyed watching it, and I figured I'd have a good time working with him from the few interactions we had. I had no compunctions about working with him." Therefore, when Ryan received the script, the first thing he was interested in was whether Jackson would star in the film. Later, the actor admitted that during the filming, his older colleague gave him a valuable lesson, and it did not relate to work but to family life. Namely, he advised to photograph family and common events, adventures, for many years. "And now I have photos all over my house of my wife and my kids and my family and whatever we've done together, and I really do have Sam to thank for that. That struck with me. It is my life, and it's going by really quickly. Let's get some pictures up." Despite the mixed reviews from film critics, the film was a success and earned $183 million with a budget of $63 million. Viewers gave the film high marks, an average of 8 out of 10. Peter DeBruge of Variety gave the film a positive review and called it a pleasant, late summer surprise, writing, "In the hands of the Expendables 3 Helmer, Patrick Hughes, and more importantly, owing to the chemistry of stars Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds, it makes for a delightfully ridiculous screwball action comedy." Therefore, it was not surprising that after a few years, viewers saw the sequel to the comedy story, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, where Salma Hayek as the hitman's wife was given more screen time. But this time, Reynolds' jokes and Jackson's bravado were not appreciated. The film failed at the box office without even paying off the budget. Trying to diversify the comedic roles, the actor accepted an offer to participate in the fantastic short film Life. The plot tells how life on Mars does not necessarily have to be positive towards the astronauts who invaded its planet. In Life, Ryan plays alongside Jake Gyllenhaal and Rebecca Ferguson. Filming was not easy because the entire film crew had to work hard to realistically depict the reality of the astronauts.
Trick that we're doing on this set, which is that we're all sort of floating around and flying around in zero G, but that's like much more complicated than you think. I mean, it's 4 or 5 people are operating the ropes and pulleys for just one actor at a time.
Life received mixed reviews and an average score of 6 out of 10. They praised the actors for their acting and high-quality directing, but the film could not bring anything new or outstanding to its genre. In 2019, the actor took part in the filming of Michael Bay's thriller 6 Underground, which received extremely mixed reviews from critics. He played the role of one of the richest people of this world who decided to fake his death and devote himself to fighting the dictator. Despite the fact that the director was able to assemble a good cast, Dave Franco, Melanie Laurent, Manuel Rulfo, Ben Hardy, Bay would not be Bay if he did not rely on spectacularity in his work. Car chases, shootouts, powerful explosions, and not the best jokes, all this together did not work out. The audience praised Reynolds' performance, but criticized the chaos and insufficient depth of the film. The review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported an approval rating of 36% based on 94 reviews, with an average rating of 4.8 out of 10. Ryan also remained ambivalent about his collaboration with Michael Bay. "You never know when you're supposed to be shooting or what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be going or what you're supposed to be saying," he said. "But somehow, someway, he and his editors make it all kind of come together on the screen and you get this unbelievable spectacle of a movie that's muscular and a huge event. There is a rhyme to his madness." This film, with a budget of $150 million, is one of the most expensive Netflix original films ever made. Therefore, Netflix, which originally planned to shoot the sequel, abandoned this idea after negative reviews. In the same year, Ryan gave his voice to Pokemon Pikachu in the fantasy film Detective Pikachu. Reynolds agreed to this role for one reason. He would like at least one of his works to be shown to children. Based on the 2016 game of the same name, the plot tells about Tim Goodman, who, paired with a witty Pokemon, investigates the disappearance of his father. Ryan had to, in fact, play a split role, Pikachu and, careful, spoiler alert, the father of the main character. The film received high marks for its good plot, computer graphics, and acting, and fans of the video game were very pleased with such a fun and easy adaptation of the story performed by Reynolds. It wasn't without tricks from the Deadpool star. On the eve of the movie's release, Ryan posted on an unknown Twitter account called Inspector Pikachu, allegedly leaking the full version of the film. When the video was played, viewers saw logos of the Warner Bros., followed by Legendary Pictures and the Pokemon Company. Then, apparently, the movie begins, in which Justice Smith's character walks through Rhyme City. What happens after that? All you have to do is watch. By the way, Ryan often takes part in voice acting. We've already talked about Family Guy, but many years later in 2013, the actor voiced the characters in the cartoons Turbo and The Croods. There were also some miscalculations. An attempt to bring a humorous note to David Leitch's action movie Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw was not particularly successful. Reynolds' role was episodic, despite the witticisms and interesting verbal duel between his character, CIA agent Locke, and Hobbs.
We're best friends. There's the half heart.
I don't know what that is.
We got some ink together.
We did not get ink together.
Oh, we didn't?
No, we did not.
Interesting.
We
well,
never got
I seem to remember getting a little something like this at one point on my body.
Jesus.
How did the Deadpool star agree to such a minor role? According to Leitch, he approached Reynolds with an offer and gave him full creative freedom regarding his character. And I reached out to Ryan. Dude, I have this exposition scene with the CIA agent. The director said, it's a lot of boring exposition. How would you like to come in and play it? And he's like, I'd love to. It'd be so fun. The actor himself explained his participation as follows. That cameo was a favor for Dwayne. Here's the thing about cameos. They're not done that much, and I think they should be. I really believe in them. And Reynolds, in collaboration with Deadpool screenwriters, rewrote his character's dialogue, even going so far as to incorporate an infatuation with Johnson's character for good measure. The result was the irreverent, profane, wisecracking banter, as well as pop culture references. So without approaching Ryan, we would never have had this gold. He created a character that I was hoping would live in this world that's a little bit more fun-forward than the other Fast franchise. Critics rated the film generally positively, and it grossed $760 million at the box office. But the audience rating was not very high. On aggregator sites, the film received an average score of 6 out of 10. In 2020, Ryan teamed up with other global stars, Olivia Wilde, Benedict Cumberbatch, Sarah Paulson, Chris Hemsworth, and others to participate in a 10-episode charity project aimed at raising money for Partners in Health in the fight against COVID-19. There, the actors read the work of Roald Dahl, James and the Giant Peach.
My dear old grasshopper, we are finished. Every one of us is about to perish. I may be blind, but that much I can see quite clearly.
A year later, he played himself in the comedy television series American Auto, which lasted 2 seasons. In recent years, Reynolds has devoted all his efforts to creating the Deadpool universe, periodically starring in other projects, most of which are rom-coms or comedies of various scales. It seems that the actor increasingly chooses the images that are easily given to him and skillfully manipulates his personal brand. They both have witty jokes and charm, but over time, this image makes Ryan dependent on it. Reynolds' growing reliance on his repertoire of easily recognizable actorly tics has caused something to happen. Too easily and too often, his natural charm can spill over into off-putting smarm. His wittiness can read as mere glibness. Glenn Weldon writes about his latest works. Do you agree with this statement? Write your opinion in the comments. One of the best works of recent years is considered to be the fantastic comedy Free Guy by Sean Levy. The story tells about a virtual reality hero who suddenly turns from an ordinary NPC into the main character who determines the fate of the entire digital world. And in this project, Ryan not only played the main character of the movie, but also was able to realize himself as a producer and screenwriter. The film itself turned out to be a kind of satire on modern society where questions of morality, social division, and the place of an individual in the era of high technology are raised. You'll find a lot of Easter eggs and pop culture references, such as a mix of Twitch, YouTube, and Reddit threads. It was specifically designed so that you'd have to watch the movie several times to find them all.
Nope.
And of course, the actor personally asked Chris Evans to participate in the films. Getting Evans was one of the biggest favors Reynolds called in. He was in Boston and I texted him, Reynolds says, and being the complete gentleman and stud that he is, he just got in his car, came down, and we had him in and out in under 7 minutes. There were also some stunts because even if a little, the picture is an action movie. And what worried Reynolds the most was not the big ones, but the small stunts in which you can inflict unpleasant damage on yourself. However, there was another action that scared him. The one when he flew out the window on a motorcycle, slid to the ground, stood up, ripped off his helmet, and continued walking. That was a little bit of a gnarly ride, Reynolds said. I think we did it only 3 times. I was thrilled that I could still do stuff like that. In an interview, the actor said that now it was difficult to find an original idea in cinema that would not be tied to comics, intellectual property, or a franchise. That's why they tried to create something new together with the director. The source of inspiration for the actor was the cult film Back to the Future. I love being immersed in a world I'm unfamiliar with, and experiencing real wish fulfillment is something that harkens back to like the Amblin days, Ryan explained. Work on the script continued all the time, even during filming, as both Reynolds and Levy sought to improve their material. Both men live in New York and would take the train to Boston each week for filming. So, we would just sit there with our laptops and be rewriting scenes, the actor recalled. That's where a lot of Guy's personality as a sentient AI came from. Both Sean Levy and I really subscribe to this idea that you should listen to your movie because it will speak to you, Reynolds says. Released during the pandemic, Free Guy became quite successful. It has grossed $331.5 million worldwide. The film received generally positive reviews from critics for this concept. It was compared to science fiction films and video games such as Ready Player One, The Truman Show, and The Matrix. In addition, the film was nominated for an Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Another film of 2021 was the action movie Red Notice, which is worth watching at least because of the increased concentration of beautiful people on the screen. Gal Gadot and Dwayne Johnson starred with Ryan. Despite the cool script, the director of the movie, Rawson Marshall, gave the actors the opportunity to improvise a lot. Reynolds was particularly good at it. Johnson shared his impressions of working with the Deadpool actor in an interview. I came from a world of live performance in the wild world of pro wrestling, but in particular for Ryan Reynolds, that is his bread and butter. He's a brilliant guy, especially when it comes to thinking off the cuff. Reynolds confirmed that he was involved in writing the dialogues. I improvise a lot of the jokes. Yeah, that's kind of my job. I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say improv or improvise because I write a lot of the jokes, I write 8 or 9 options for each joke and I leave it to the editor and the director just to decide which ones they feel are suitable for the movie. Humor turned out to be the only thing that the audience and critics praised the film for. Other aspects remained very weak. The plot was called banal and hackneyed, a caricature of more interesting previous thematic works. Some critics have suggested that the Deadpool actor has become a hostage to his own image, which has played into his hands over the past decade. The problem is that the Ryan Reynolds brand has gradually begun to lose its uniqueness and has now turned into a cliché. The movie relies too heavily on its stars at the expense of an original narrative. Unfortunately, what this means for Ryan Reynolds' career is that he's being pigeonholed by his own comedic talents. While the Deadpool franchise is comedy gold and one of the best Marvel antiheroes around, it might have been the catalyst for Ryan Reynolds' brand being fused in the minds of Hollywood's producers. Katie Rath wrote about the Red Notice in her review. Sean Levy's comedy thriller The Adam Project, where Reynolds played the role of Adam Reed, a pilot who traveled back in time to complete a personal mission, was better reviewed. But due to circumstances, the hero got to 2022 where he met himself as a 12-year-old. From that moment on, both Adam, a 12-year-old boy played by Walker Scobell, and a 40-year-old were trying to change the future. Production of the film began back in 2012, and Tom Cruise was considered for the lead role. But due to the production vicissitudes, the work on the film was very delayed, and it began as early as 2020 when Netflix bought the rights to the film adaptation. Reynolds showed himself well as an actor who plays well in pairs, and the tandem with the young Scobell was called very high quality. Walker needed to learn how to mimic Ryan in body language, but he coped with it perfectly, largely due to the fact that the young actor was a fan of Deadpool and worked very hard with his hero. Ryan's jokes and mutual understandings between the actors played a role. The movie received generally positive reviews, earning an average rating of 6 out of 10 on aggregator sites. Ryan Leston of IGN gave the film 9 out of 10 and called it a mix of such films as Back to the Future and The Last Starfighter. In 2023, the actor appeared only in one film and then only in a cameo in the comedy Ghosted by Dexter Fletcher. Perhaps it was a favor to a colleague for helping with the movie Free Guy because the picture was clearly unsuccessful. In addition, in 2022, the actor took a temporary one-year vacation from his career, but he has something to do. In addition to acting, Reynolds has achieved significant success in business. He's a savvy showman and brand maven who has a stake in a varied array of companies, including Maximum Effort, both a production house and marketing agency, and Aviation Gin, among other ventures. He's also the co-owner, along with Rob McElhenney, of Welsh soccer side Wrexham AFC, and co-produced the critically acclaimed FX docu-series Welcome to Wrexham that follows the team's adventures. Ryan Reynolds is a Renaissance man 2.0 for our times. He's an actor, a business entrepreneur, a writer, a comedian, a producer, and a creative innovator on screen and off. American Cinematic board chair Rick Nacita said about him, "Most important to us, he's a true modern movie star. He's reached the heights of stardom in movies shown on all platforms, in all genres, ranging from comedies to dramas to action films, or combinations of all three." At the same time, a sarcastic attitude towards oneself and acting career does not apply to business. Ryan Reynolds is very serious when it comes to his company Aviation American Gin, and the actor's pure enthusiasm and good relationships with other celebrities have turned Aviation American Gin into one of the most recognizable gin brands in the States. What helped him achieve success in such a business? The first is to be fully involved in the process, regulate all stages of the process, and understand them. "There are no half measures when it comes to Aviation Gin," says Reynolds. "I'm really involved," says Reynolds, leaning forward earnestly. "I mean, I'm not remotely involved in production of the gin because I know nothing about distilling, but I'm there for every other aspect of the business because I really love this gin. I love it more than any other liquid in the world, except maybe water. If I don't know something, I'm honest about that. If they're talking about some aspect of distribution that I'm missing, I'll just ask them to break it down for me. That's how we learn. That's the most valuable part of this." The actor believes the liquor business is more honest than the movie industry, and he definitely likes it better when a firm handshake is enough for trust. It's not surprising that Ryan constantly travels to various business meetings and is engaged in distribution. A handshake really means something to these people. Their word is their bond, the actor said. Social networks help him promote his brand, both personal and commercial. The Deadpool star takes their management seriously and currently has 50 million subscribers. Ryan promotes his films on his Instagram account, posts interesting stunts, sketches, and skits. One of his most constant and popular ideas is a fictional twin brother named Gordon who interviews him, criticizing his work and family.
Nobody calls me that. To your face. Boltneck, the change-up, selfless, Detective Pikachu, criminal, the voices, and to a lesser extent, this ad masquerading as a tired-as-shit fake twin brother sketch.
In parallel, the actor is working on the continuation of the cult story about the witty mercenary. The release of the picture was also long awaited because Hugh Jackman played Logan there. This event was announced in a funny video that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman recorded together. In the video, Reynolds talked about working on Deadpool and then asked Jackman, who was passing by,
But we did have one idea. Hey, Hugh, you want to play Wolverine one more time?
Yeah, sure, Ryan.
How did it happen that Jackman returned to this role? It's all because of the feud between her and Ryan Reynolds, or rather, friendship. It all started when Ryan was married to Scarlett Johansson. It was said that back then, during the filming of X-Men Origins Wolverine, Jackman made a remark to Ryan saying, "Hey, you better be on your best behavior here, pal, because I'm watching." Jackman and Johansson were friends then and communicated well. Moreover, Reynolds' hero Deadpool was an opponent of Wolverine and opposed him in the picture. From that time on, their playful feud began, which was gaining momentum all the time. The actors constantly quarreled on social networks and made fun of each other. In 2015, Reynolds portrayed Jackman, calling people to vote for a colleague as the sexiest man in the world. The Wolverine actor did not think long about the answer and showed a video where his dog goes to the toilet to a photo of Reynolds. After that, the Deadpool actor called their relationship a war. He made fun of Jackman's fans and responded to Hugh's attacks with comments like, "I'm not lurking in your shadow, I'm caressing its soft, shadowy fur." And he congratulated his friend on marrying Deborah Lee Furness in a peculiar way. I give them 3 months. In addition, Reynolds constantly comments on Jackman's Twitter, writing barbs under posts about his film projects. During the interview, Reynolds replied with a reference to the film The Greatest Showman when was asked about Hugh Jackman. "I know for a fact he's the one who named that movie. Why not just call the movie Super Awesome Hugh Jackman? I think it's pathetic and disgusting." But periodically the actors declare a truce, especially when it comes to business or serious things. So they did one another's brand advertising. Reynolds creatively talked about Jackman's coffee business, and the latter made an advertisement for his friend's gin. However, he went a little too far with the jokes. After that, he publicly apologized.
Sorry, man, I didn't think the truce was actually real.
During the pandemic, they participated together in the charity event The All In Challenge, in which celebrities raise money for food aid for children, the elderly, and doctors working with patients with coronavirus. The actors recorded a video with the announcement.
People think it started with us. Well, it didn't.
No. The Jackmans and Reynolds have been mortal enemies for as long as there have been Jackmans and Reynoldses.
For generations, it's been a point of family honor to oppose each other.
Reynolds donated $1 million to help the victims, which was divided between the organizations Feeding America and Food Banks Canada. COVID-19 has brutally impacted older adults and low-income families. If you can give, these orgs need our help. Reynolds wrote on Instagram, "Take care of your bodies and hearts. Leave room for joy. Call someone who's isolated and might need connection." In addition, the actor said that 30% of the income from online sales of his company Aviation Gin was donated to the United States Bartenders Guild to support American bartenders who were out of work due to the pandemic. When Reynolds talked about mental health issues on social media, Jackman commented on his post, "Mate, your honesty is not only brave, but I'm positive will help countless others who struggle with anxiety too. Good on you." But friends still do not miss the opportunity to tease each other. So, on the eve of 2019, Jackman invited his friend to celebrate the new year, noting that the dress code for the guests was festive sweaters, but the sweater with a bow was meant only for Ryan. It turned out to be a prank. And in 2022, Jackman and his wife danced Christmas dance on the background of a Christmas tree and a cardboard figure of Ryan Reynolds. What to say about the constant unflattering comments about each other in various interviews?
Ryan Reynolds is ubiquitous, and it's annoying.
One day, friends decided to play big and conducted a joint interview where Ryan joked about his colleague to the fullest.
Come on, man. Many actors enjoy performing their own stunts.
Yes.
Do you do all your own acting?
If there's sex scenes, I do them.
Yes. That's where the craft is.
Yeah.
And in January 2023, Jackman called on the Academy not to nominate the Good Day song featured in the musical Spirited. Now, Ryan Reynolds getting a nomination in the Best Song category would make the next year of my life insufferable, Jackman joked in a video posted on Twitter. Reynolds spent a long time trying to persuade his friend to return to the role of Logan. He talked about it before the release of Deadpool 2. Whenever I see him, I'm like, come on, man, just one more. Come on, we'll do it together. It'll be fun. Come on. Jackman confirmed that Reynolds constantly begs him to shoot. Ryan is relentless. He keeps coming back to me in all these ways, shapes, and forms. I've wanted this to happen since the day my mother and father finished a box of Chardonnay and checked into that Holiday Inn Express to produce a child. Me. At one point, Ryan admitted that it was almost impossible to persuade Hugh. Then the Deadpool star went the familiar way. He turned everything into a joke. So one day, he wished everyone a happy Australia Day in a sarcastic mercenary costume. He urged fans to fulfill his dream and apply for Logan's participation to Kevin Feige, Marvel's creative director. As a result, he persuaded him. The friends made a video explaining what their collaboration would be like.
What actually happens in our film is these two get out there, and he's like, and I'm chasing him home.
Ryan Reynolds continues to work so hard, as if he's 17 years old and he only dreams of conquering Hollywood. The actor gave us one of the best superhero films of the 20th century, for which comic book fans will always be grateful to him. We are sure that they, along with Jackman, will give us a reason to talk about them and follow the news. And if you want to know the details of Logan's personal life and career, click on this icon. Why is Hugh deeply offended by his mother? What did he do after he wet himself on stage once? What is the secret of his spiritual quest? And what does he say in an interview about Reynolds? Follow the link and watch. And that's all. We hope you enjoyed today's story and you'll like this video. It was Biographer. See you very soon. Bye-bye.